last meeting with PHPA. Today we have a collab meeting with the Career Services Center. We will be talking about healthcare entry-level jobs presented by Jenny DeCausen, a career counselor, and Joan Kang, who is a senior career advisor. But before we get started, we do have a couple of announcements, and then we'll proceed with our meeting. So we have our annual PHPA awards for the fall 22 and spring 23 semester. So we would like to know, what is your favorite meeting, favorite event that we had, the most dedicated member, the most impactful health equity speaker. So we would like to know your favorites. Select your nominations for 8 different categories and look in the chat for the nomination form and submit it by May 19th. We also have the SMC Faculty Excellence Award. So if you have a professor that has made a meaningful impact in your life, there's still time to nominate your professor for the Faculty Excellence Award, and it's also due by May 19th, and we will also put it in the chat as well. And just to let you guys know, just a reminder, so for the PHPA membership, so for the official membership, earn at least 4 meeting credits, so that's attending at least 4 meetings. You will receive a personalized certificate at the end of semester. You can also add it to your resume and college applications. And then our outstanding membership is earn at least 6 meeting credits, so that's 6 meeting attendance. You will also receive a personalized certificate at the end of semester and also PHPA merch, and you can also add it to your resume and college applications. So for the PHPA merch, we just purchased the merch. So for this year, for the fall and for the spring, it'll be custom PHPA pins and also stickers as well. So please look forward for our outstanding members. We will be sending out an email in the upcoming weeks.
Okay, so we have a very exciting announcement. We have elected our new PHPA board for the 2023-2024 school year. So let's give them all a round of applause. Congratulations. So yeah, we're very excited to hand off the reins to the new board. And there's, very a good amount of exciting activities and speakers coming up next year. And with that, I'll just say thank you. This is our last PHPA meeting of this semester. We will be back with a new board in fall 2023 with more speakers, events, and opportunities for our members. And now I'd like to formally introduce the 2 career services members that are going to be presenting today. Jenny DeCausen, career counselor, and Joan Kang, senior career advisor from the SMC Career Services Center. And they're going to be talking about entry-level healthcare jobs. With that, I'm going to hand over the reins to them.
Joan, did you have something you wanted to say about the attendance?
Oh, yeah. So if you are needing attendance verification for this workshop outside of being a PHPA member, you will get an email sometime this week with the recording from today's session, along with a verification. And then hopefully next week, I will also be able to give you the actual PowerPoint presentation as in a form of a PDF version, but definitely the recording will be available sometime this week. Okay. Thanks, Jenny.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Want to make sure everybody can see that. You can see my PowerPoint? Okay, good. All right, well, I just want to say thank you for inviting us. This was a topic that was specifically requested by PHA, and I created this presentation for you. I hope that you find it valuable. So thank you all for attending. And we love collaborating with you. We try to do something every semester, so this is perfect. I put a lot of work into this because I've never done a presentation quite like this before. It has a ton of information in it, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I can figure out how to go to the next one. Okay, so we got new headshots. You'll see these are different than the ones you just saw, but I'm Jenny DeCossin, and I am the career counselor assigned to health and wellness. And so I help with career counseling things. So like exploration, figuring out what you want to major in or what you want to do for your career, and then planning, what's it going to take to get there? What's the education required? What are the steps, in getting experience and things like that. And we focus also a lot on you, understanding yourself so that you can choose something that's going to be a good fit for you and something that you think is going to be satisfying in the long term. I can also help with resume and things like that, but that's really Joan's department in this context. Joan is our senior career services advisor. She helps you with getting experience. She helps with job and internship search, and really, really great at helping you with resume, cover letter, interviewing. So I'm going to give her some time at the end of this presentation to tell you a little bit more about that, but we're just going to go ahead and dive right in. So what we're going to cover today is really looking specifically at entry-level jobs that are available to you at many education levels. So it might just be something that doesn't require anything more than like a high school diploma, or just a few classes, or up to a bachelor's degree. And that is including programs that are offered by SMC. So I will point out the ones that we offer. I'm not going to go beyond the bachelor's degree level. I'm going to focus more on the things you can do with less education. I'm going to give you a lot of salary info, but that is really just going to be a snapshot. And I just really want to tell you that, and help make sure that you understand that the salary info I'm putting on there is a snapshot of what is the current data that I found online, and it is subject to change. And I'm going to give you the resources to help you research these options yourself. So again, just a disclaimer, I am not an expert on this. I spent a lot of time gathering this information, and I'm going to show you how to gather information yourself as well. So this presentation is just a start. It's a way for you to start gathering information, and you'll also need to do your own research, and we're always available for help with that. So this is a start, and you can make an appointment for more help. So, to start out with, it's, the question is, when we're thinking about entry-level jobs, you really have to think about what you're interested. What are you looking for? What level of information do you want to pursue? You may be looking for a career that requires just some classes or a certificate, or maybe you're thinking you want to do something that's an associate degree level at the most. Maybe you have this feeling that you want to be in healthcare, but you really don't have a good sense of what the options are or what you really want to do. And I know that there are probably several of you that do know what you want to do, and you need to get healthcare experience. Say you want to become a doctor, or you want to apply to a physician assistant program, or one of those advanced degree programs that do require healthcare experience. And so you're looking at, how can I get that experience? So there are lots of different possible scenarios here. And I had those all in mind when I was creating this presentation. So I tried to include a little bit of something for everyone. So I'm going to go a little bit more into this idea of levels of education, because some people may not be familiar with all of these terms. So a certificate is just courses in the major. You don't have to do general education for a certificate. And at SMC specifically, these courses are all going to be full semester courses, if most at least. We work on the semester system, so these are going to be within the semester timeframe. And a certificate, just to clarify a little bit, that is not the same as a professional certification. So at times I might say this job requires certification or a license. That is something that happens, in addition to this certificate that you get from SMC. And then at private career colleges, they would be on their own time frame. When you say, you can do this in less than a year, then that probably is, a completely different time frame than the types of courses that we offer on the semester system. And then for an associate degree, those are called 2-year degrees, but they often take longer. They require courses in the major and general education, and we do require a minimum of 60 units to get an associate degree, and that's at any community college. That's what it takes to get an associate degree. But for things like nursing and respiratory care, things like that, I'm sure you're aware, you do prerequisites first and then you get into those programs, and then they're often a 2-year program after you get in. And then bachelor's degree and beyond. So to get a bachelor's degree, most of the time you have to transfer to a 4-year university to complete a bachelor's degree, and they are 120 units usually. And so if you do a 60 units before you transfer, then you've got half your bachelor's degree done, more or less, that's the general framework anyway. And then if you're looking at something that requires a master's or a doctorate, that's usually after the bachelor's degree. So that's a graduate degree. It's called that because you've already graduated with your bachelor's degree. So I just like to share that because I talk to all people who are, at the very beginning of this process and often don't understand all of this information. So I just wanted to kind of set that out there. And so for those of you who are not sure what you want, and I do talk to a lot of students who are like, I thought I wanted to be a nurse, or I think I want to be a doctor, but I don't really know. I think I want to be in healthcare, but I really don't know. So I understand that may be your experience as well. And I just want to say that there are a lot of benefits to be gained from getting work experience. You learn about the healthcare field, whatever it is you go out there and do, you're going to get a lot of exposure to a lot of different parts of healthcare. And so that's really valuable. You learn about what you like and what you want to do, what you want to do more of, and you learn about what you don't like and you never want to do again. So, that's a valuable experience. And then, like I was saying before, these jobs can help you earn hours of healthcare experience that is sometimes needed for admissions to graduate programs. But always, you learn skills. When you get this experience, it enhances your resume, you can gain confidence, and of course you can earn money while you're in school. So those are some of the benefits of work experience. And then also we did, put in our description, we talked about careers in allied health or jobs in allied health. So what is allied health? I think it's a confusing term. I actually had to look it up myself because even the definitions can be confusing. So I think in a nutshell, it's health professions that are different from being a doctor or being a nurse. So it's a whole cluster of healthcare related professions that focus on assisting, facilitating, or complementing the work of physicians and other specialists in the healthcare system. And they play supportive roles. They like to really define what they do, but I needed it to be short and sweet. So I would say, think of it like jobs like technicians, assistants, therapists, and technologists. So that's a little bit of just background about what is allied health. There are so many careers, so many professions in allied health. And I want to, clarify that some of these programs I'm going to talk about today, or some of these jobs I'm going to talk about today, we offer programs in them, and some of them we do not. But I just want to make you aware of what all the options are. So the programs that are offered by SMC we have associate degree programs in registered nursing, respiratory care, nutrition and dietetics, medical administrative assistant, and medical coding and billing. I think those are all AS programs, which means associative science. When I was making this, there were so many edits I made along the way. I was trying to make it sort of streamlined, but I think they are all associative science programs. And so those are ones that we offer at Santa Monica College. Then there's also certificate programs. Like I said, those are programs that are just going to have classes in the major. They don't require general education, and they're less than 60 units. So we have certified nursing assistant, which is also known as CNA, and home health aide. These are both non-credit programs. These are awesome opportunities. They're pretty new. They just started this program within the last year. So a lot of people haven't heard about it yet. And right now they're accepting applications for a summer cohort. Applications are due May 19th. And what's awesome about these programs being non-credit means that you don't have to pay for the units. There may be some costs associated with the program, but it's a very affordable option. And then we have some medical office technology. So if somebody wants to be more on the administrative side of healthcare, there's certificates in medical office clerk, electronic media records clerk, hospital inpatient coder, medical billing and coding, medical records clerk / receptionist, and medical transcription. And I will go, I'll be mentioning some of these later on, but those are all options that we have here at SMC, and they are offered through the computer science department or in collaboration with the computer science department because they have a lot to do with technology. And then we have the rehab therapy aid and intro to working with older adults non-credit programs. So these again are non-credit. You don't have to pay for the units. There is also a limitation that F1 visa students are not allowed to take non-credit. Just so you know, wanted to make that clear. And these are very low unit programs. There are not a lot of requirements, and they are really intended for exploration. They do teach you some practical skills, but they're exploring options in these fields or sort of giving you some background knowledge of what these fields are like. They don't lead directly to employment, and they may lead you to decide that you want to pursue a degree pursue further education to pursue these careers in these fields. All right, so those are the ones that are offered at SMC. And so when I made this presentation, I did a lot of research. I don't just know all of this stuff. This is, a research project, and I encourage you to do research yourself as well. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to be telling you about a lot of jobs and how much, education it requires, how much they pay, things like that, where to find programs. But I found them all using these resources, and you can use these resources too. So I'm going to save some time at the end of this presentation so that I can show you how to use these. You'll hear me mention ONET a lot because I got a lot of this information from ONET. Anybody can use ONET, and I'll demonstrate it later. So we're going to start with entry-level jobs that require just a short-term education and training, maybe just a few classes, maybe a certificate, but definitely less than an associate degree. And we're about to start, going into a list of actual entry-level jobs with quite a bit of information, and it might be a bit too much for right now. So I want it on the screen. I'm not necessarily going to read everything. I for sure am not going to read everything on the screen because that would take too long. So I'm also holding questions till the end because I got a lot of information to get through, but hopefully we'll have some Q&A at the end. So just know that this is intended for exploration. This is intended for you to see what the options are. As a career counselor, I really encourage and I like to help people to explore before focusing in too closely. So, basically there's a lot of jobs here. Don't try to scramble to write it all down. I mean, you could take some screenshots if you're really interested in a few of them. You might want to jot down a few of the job titles so that you can research them later. But don't try to take in all this information right now. Try to keep it more at like a big picture level right now, or else it might be a little overwhelming. All right, so the first couple, I paired them together because these are two of our non-credit programs, and you actually are encouraged to pair them when you do this program. Like when you do certified nursing assistant, they encourage you to do home health aide as well. So these are those non-credit programs I was talking about at SMC. So a certified nursing assistant is also called a CNA. They do the type of nursing that's like feeding, bathing, dressing, grooming. They're an assistant, and it's a great way to get hands-on patient care. And when you do this program, you get clinical experience and you afterwards can work in a hospital setting. And this is something where at the end of the program, you take an exam to get a license. And I just want to say from the beginning, I am not an expert in any of these things. And I may use the word license where maybe I should say certification or something like that. But just know that it means that you get some education and training, and then you take an exam, and then you have to, like in this case, be a certified nursing assistant. You take that exam to get certified. And then I have a little snapshot of salary data that I just got off of ONET yesterday. Okay, so that's the pay that you can expect with a certified nursing assistant, as a certified nursing assistant. And then home health aide, this is helping with routine healthcare tasks or activities of daily living. And when you get this certificate or certifications, you can work in private homes. And so if you do both of them together, then you could work in a hospital, or you could work in a private home, or, you know, some type of an assisted living or something like that. And if you want to learn more about these, you can make an appointment with me, or if you really want to know about the classes and things of any of these careers I'm going to talk about, or jobs like I'm going to talk about today, you can also go to a counselor for help with choosing classes. All right, so licensed vocational nurse, because I'm just trying to cover everything here. We do not offer LVN, but it is another level of nursing that is sort of between CNA and RN, and they provide basic care. The education takes 1 to 2 years, sometimes 2 if it's an associate degree program. You can find this at community colleges, a few of these programs at community colleges, but I think mostly this might be something you'll find at a private career college. And again, you have to pass an exam to be licensed. EMT and paramedic. So this is another type of getting entry level experience in healthcare. So EMT stands for emergency medical technician, and the courses, there's lots of courses that are offered at community colleges for EMT programs, and there's different levels too. And I don't understand all of the details, but like there's a basic level of EMT, and it can take between 120 and 150 hours to complete that program. There's also paramedic. Now, paramedic is definitely moving up with more education experience, and that could take 1,200 to 1,800 hours. And these are often offered as part of fire tech programs, because a lot of times people become a paramedic because they want to work in a fire department, and you could be a firefighter who's also a medic. But it is considered good experience for anybody who wants to go into the medical field. It's a good way to gain medical experience before applying to medical school. There's a little bit of information about salary there. And then I thought it was interesting. I learned in this process that there are things you can do in a hospital with an EMT certification. So with EMT basic level, you can be an ER technician, like in a hospital setting, maybe in an emergency department. And the pay varies a lot. And in this case, I did not find just this listed on ONET as an occupation. It's probably lumped under something, and it was, you know, a little too broad. So I actually did my own research on Indeed.com, just looking up job postings. It's a great way to do research and just to see like what does the job entail, what kinds of experience or education are they looking for, and then the pay varies based on that. But some of them are, you know, they're looking for the EMT basic level. Similarly, a patient care tech, they're looking for EMT certification. They want maybe a basic life support certification. They may also accept CNA, I'm not sure. But again, just look on Indeed.com, look at some job postings, look up patient care tech and see what they're looking for. It varies widely, you know, because each employer gets to say what they're looking for and, you know, what the job description is going to be and how much they're going to pay. So you can see, you know, it might start at $16 an hour, but I saw one posted for $45 an hour, and that person obviously is going to have some experience. And so I encourage you to do this type of research. And also, I guess I just wanted to say, like, it's going to vary a lot based on who's hiring. You know, if it's UCLA Medical Center, you know, they may want more education and more experience, and then they also might pay more. And so that's part of the variety as well, just depending on what kind of an employer they are. Then there's patient transporter and patient transportation aid. Somebody in this role would transport people and equipment within the hospital from one department to another, or transporting from the hospital to a vehicle. And I think some of them said you could just have a high school diploma or GED, and then they do want that CPR or basic life support certification. Now the CPR and basic life support, I believe those are the types of thing you go and you do in one afternoon. So you know, to get certified for that is not such a big time commitment. Sometimes they may want CNA for this one, and may require some experience in a hospital setting. And these are, you know, I saw $15 to $24 an hour and up on Indeed.com. So you can start to see how, like, if you did get the the CNA, or you got the EMT, it would open up more opportunities in a hospital setting. Then there are things like medical transcriptionist and medical scribe, which are lumped together on ONET. So I've only got one set of salary data there. This is a very entry-level thing. And I think I get the impression that some of these things are paid low because they know you're doing it because you need it to like get into medical school. So it is something you do while you're a student to get some experience. And basically that 29,000 kind of stayed like level. It's like there's not a lot of room to grow in that field. So a medical transcriptionist, so a doctor might record into a microphone what they were doing, and then a transcriptionist puts it in the chart. So they're doing the charting for the doctor, and these jobs can happen anywhere where there is a verbal medical record. It's a lot of computer work. You're not going to get patient access. You're not going to be involved with the patients directly if you do this job. But you can get into this with as little as 6 to 12 months of education. And SMC this is one of the certificates we offer. It's a 12-unit certificate. And then medical scribe actually follows a doctor around and charts in real time while the doctor does assessment. And I learned more about this one from your VP, Sarah. She actually works this job. And so, just remember, you guys are a resource to each other as well. You can learn a lot from each other because she's actually out there doing this. And so I learned from her that you need to take anatomy, physiology, and medical terminology. You have to have good typing skills. So not a ton of requirements, and these are classes you may already be taking for whatever your degree you're pursuing. So that's medical transcription and medical scribe. And then there's medical assistant. So this is the person who, when you go to a doctor's appointment, they call your name, they take you in, they take your height and weight and your vitals and things like that. They work closely with doctors. And this is something that does require relatively little education, can be 12 months or less. And certification is not required in California, but anytime it's not required, that doesn't mean it can't help. Like there may be programs where you can get certified and that can help with employment. And some employers may require that. And there are programs available for this at community colleges, private career colleges, and adult schools. So you're going to hear me say this a lot. There may be a few of these programs at community colleges. There may be private career colleges out there you've heard of, like CBD College or American Career College or Glendale Career College or something like that. And then adult schools. Now, I'm not promoting any of them. I do promote community college programs. We know that they're legit. We know they're great value. Private career colleges you do need to do a lot of research before you commit to one. They can be legit, but sometimes they are not. So you just want to make sure you choose a good one. All right, so you can see the salary info there, but I have a friend who's a physician assistant, and she told me she wished, because she wanted to get a job in a dermatology office. Actually, she's the one who came to our career panel last fall. She's the physician assistant. She wanted to always wanted to work in a dermatologist office, and she said she thinks it would have been a really good idea to become a medical assistant and work in a dermatologist office, so that straight out of PA school, she felt that she would have a better chance of going straight into a dermatology office. So that's some of the, things you can think about and strategies you can use to get to your ultimate goal. Phlebotomist. So this is the person who takes blood. So it's a single skill, and, people aren't always happy to see you. They might not like you, but this is something you can do with a certificate program, and it does require a license in California. And if you're doing this to get your healthcare experience because you want to apply to medical schools, some people say it would be better to do like medical assisting or CNA, because those combine multiple skills. But some people do choose to do phlebotomy as part of their healthcare experience to prepare for medical school. So everybody's different and different things work. But medical assistants also learn how to draw blood. All right, surgical technologist. So I looked at this one more than once because I thought the pay looked awfully high for less than an associate degree. But, it looks like there are programs out there, a one-year certificate program to become a surgical technologist. And then there's other certificates like for sterilization of equipment. And I saw it in job postings that they wanted that certification. So also there are associate degree programs out there. So these again would be in community colleges, career colleges. And technically, this is one of those ones where technically certification is not required in California, but when I looked at job postings, employers were asking for certification. So you can do national certification for that. And then employers also were looking for graduates of accredited programs. That I did see that wording in job postings. And then I have the salary information on ONET for surgical technologist. And later on, I'm going to show you how to search for show you how to find which community college offers which programs. We've got dietitian technician. So, I did see this as listed as there are certificate programs that take less than 1 year. But I originally heard about this from Yvonne Ortega, who runs our nutrition department. And she was saying, if you do our associate degree for transfer in nutrition and dietetics, then you could take the board exam to become a registered dietitian technician. And this position works under a registered dietitian. And it's just a good way to get some entry-level experience, maybe a good way to get some work and pay while you're in school. And I think she was saying that she did it she did her program she worked at USC as a dietitian tech, I believe. I may be getting this wrong, but you'll get the gist. I think she worked at USC, and then that allowed her to get a reduction in tuition because she worked at USC, and then did the USC registered dietitian program, which seems like a pretty great way to go about it. And then there's pharmacy tech. So if you're thinking about becoming a pharmacist, this allows you to work alongside pharmacists and get experience. And there's various levels of programs for pharmacy tech, and some of them take less than 1 year. Again, at the community colleges, career colleges, and adult schools, and a license is required in California. Then we've got dental assistant. So if you're thinking of going into the dental field, you might want to do this to try it out, see how you like it, gain some experience prior to becoming a dental hygienist or a dentist. And they perform a variety of tasks. They might be working directly with patients, they might be doing office work or lab duties. And this also can be done in less than a year, but some programs do take longer. And again, these are offered at community colleges, private career colleges, and adult schools. And another person from our panel of professionals last fall, if anybody went to that, we had somebody on that panel who does hiring at dental offices, and she was saying she cannot get enough dental assistants. They're really in need right now. All right, so then we've got two that I consider kind of similar. There's physical therapy aide and occupational therapy aide. So keep in mind, this is the word aide. Later on, we're also going to look at physical therapy assistant and occupational therapy assistant. But at this level, the aide level, the education is very minimal. According to ONET, physical therapy aide, you could just do with a high school diploma or some college, or 22% of people doing this do have an associate's degree. Occupational therapy aide, it said all they require is a high school diploma or equivalent. Now, when I actually look at job postings, I do look at this with community college students, because you do find jobs out there that just require a high school diploma and will give you some on-the-job training. But requirements do vary widely by employer. And, when I looked at Indeed.com, there's a wide variety. And again, I think because people want to get this experience before going into a physical therapy program, I think they can kind of demand a little more sometimes. And then you can also check out the SMC's Rehab Therapy Aid program to learn more about this field. I think this would be, if somebody's interested in going into physical therapy or occupational therapy, that would be a good program to check out. Then there's medical record specialists. So now we're, start thinking about, this is more related to administration. So like the administrative side of healthcare, working in an office, working with billing, working with insurance. So I chose this title because medical billing and coding specialist was not listed on ONET under that name. There are some different names, and I think this is just a general umbrella. But basically, medical billing and coding is a format for charging patients and for billing insurance. And for jobs doing that, no formal education is technically required, but there are certifications that are available. And some employers do want experience, like it's not easy to find a job out there that's just like, no experience, no education required. They want you to have experience, but employers want a lot of things and you can always apply and, make your case that you are qualified for this. So SMC offers a certificate and an associate's degree in medical coding and billing specialist and also in medical administrative assistant. And when they're asking you for experience, you can list these courses that you take in these programs, well, especially the medical and billing and coding. You can list those as experience working within an electronic system. I recently met with the director of that program, and she was saying the experience you get in those classes can be listed as experience on your resume. Okay, so that was our section on jobs that require less than an associate degree. Now we're going to go into jobs that require an associate degree and again may require a license or certification. So respiratory therapist. SMC offers respiratory therapy, or we call it respiratory care. And in this field, you assess, treat, and care for patients with breathing disorders. This program, like nursing, you take those core prerequisite courses and then you apply. And once you get in, it's a 2-year program. This program is not quite as competitive as getting into the nursing program. They said last time that they had applications. There were 50 applicants and 30 spots. That's a much better ratio than it is when you apply for a nursing program. So keep this option in mind. And yes, I think this is an AS. I wrote AA, but it's an Associate of Science, and a license is required. So once you finish the program, you take your exam to become licensed. And then after that, there are lots of specialties and certifications that are available to you, and you can start to specialize. And then you can see the pay information. So you can start out at around $62,000 with this job. So yeah, check out if you want to learn more about it. You can always make an appointment and, get more details about it from a counselor. Then there's diagnostic medical sonographer. So this is what we commonly call an ultrasound technician. They also need an associate degree and certification is required. So you do an associate degree program, you take an exam to become certified. And there are a few community colleges in our area, well, in Southern California, that offer this program, but they can be really competitive to get into. So you probably would also need to look into some career colleges. And when you do that, you want to just be really aware of how they are accredited. Always be aware of what type of accreditation the school has and what kind of accreditation you're going to need to be competitive for jobs. So you want to really thoroughly research private career colleges before committing. But yeah, you can go the private career college path. I have a friend whose daughter did that recently and she got hired afterwards. She got the job she wanted. They helped her get an internship. But it costs more, it's much more affordable to go to a community college program. And I'll show you how to research and find which community colleges offer which programs when I go over the resources. Okay, so now we have the physical therapy assistant and the occupational therapy assistant. So a physical therapy assistant assists physical therapists in providing treatment and procedures, and an associate's degree is required and a license is required, and the programs are available at community colleges, a few of them, and private career colleges. Same thing with occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is more of like activities of daily living, dressing yourself, feeding yourself, a wide variety of things. Whatever, I've been told that it's about, quality of life. It may be learning an instrument. It may be dealing with somebody who is in recovery from addiction. So it is pretty varied. Just to give you a little background on occupational therapy, if you're not sure what it is, you also can work in a school. So, but an occupational therapy assistant, so I was describing occupational therapy, but an occupational therapy assistant assists an occupational therapist in providing therapies and treatments. And so we can look later at you can look later at which community colleges offer the assistant program. Radiologic technologist. So this is somebody who administers x-rays and CAT scans. There are definitely programs in the community colleges, there are career colleges, and there's one bachelor's of science program at CSUN in radiologic sciences. One time I was having an ultrasound of my thyroid, and I was asking, because I'm a career counselor, I'm always asking people about their jobs. I asked the person about it, and he said that the bachelor's degree at CSUN is kind of a jack of all trades because they learn also MRI and some different ones. So a little bit, he said, like a bachelor of all trades and master of none. So, you know, sometimes people think, oh, it's a bachelor's degree, it must definitely be better. But, you know, there's value in doing the associate degree level, and the bachelor's degree might be more like going into management or something like that. Again, they require a license, and then there's some salary info. I do know that some of these programs may have a waiting list. If you're trying to go to a community college program, you do those prerequisites, you apply to the program, and then there might be a waiting list. There probably is. And then there's dental hygienist. So you want to go in, if you're thinking about going into the dental field, this is an associate degree level, but you can also find some bachelor's degree programs in this. But basically a dental hygienist is the person who cleans your teeth. They assess your dental health, they take x-rays, they educate patients on oral health care, you know, so, or oral hygiene. So that's what they do. And so there's definitely programs at community colleges, career colleges, and some four-year universities for this. And one unique program is West LA College, which is in, you know, pretty close near Santa Monica College. They do have a bachelor's degree of dental hygiene. So it is unusual to have a bachelor's degree at a community college. There's only a few of them here or there. So that's a really special program. So if you're interested in this, you might want to look into that. And a license is required for this field. And I also would just say from my experience, I know a handful of dental hygienists, they do work multiple part-time jobs. So when I look at this amount of pay they're making, that's for somebody who's working full-time, I'm sure. But I know a lot of people who have one or two part-time jobs, and they're kind of piecing together a full-time job because each dentist only, you know, wants them there for a couple days a week. So that's just something I know about that field. And also you'll notice that starting in median, there's not a big change. Like you get hired as a qualified professional, you're earning a certain rate, and there's not a lot of growth from there. Nutritionist. So I threw this in there. It's different than the other ones because it's not like you can get like a license to be a nutritionist at the associate degree level. The license would be at the master's level if you want to become a registered dietitian. And they're starting to require that as a master's degree starting in 2024, which is right around the corner. But you can work with having taken our associate degree in nutrition and dietetics, you can market yourself as a nutritionist. Nutritionist is not a regulated word the way dietitian is. And so you can work in this field and say that you're a nutritionist, but you kind of have to be more of an entrepreneur. So it was difficult to find salary data. And that's something that if you're interested in this and you got some hustle to start your own business and market yourself, you could do that. But also, I think a lot of people doing this degree are planning to go on to become a registered dietitian. And then, of course, registered nurse. I saved this one for last because I feel like registered nurses get all the attention. This is what everybody thinks, you know, like this is kind of like the first thing people think about, and everybody tells them, oh, you should be a nurse. So we do offer an associate degree. It's an ADN. That's why I have that listed there. It's called an associate degree in nursing. And that is one level at which you can become an RN. And I purposely left the second half of the parentheses off because autocorrect wanted to make it and every single time. So anyway, at the associate degree level, you can, you know, get a degree and then take an exam to become a registered nurse. But there are also a lot of bachelor's degrees offered in this, and that's a BSN, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. So if you do an ADN program, you can transfer like to a Cal State or like University of Phoenix, and different types of schools offer those as well. And then you become a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And there's lots of different ways you can do this. This is a huge, you know, like a half-hour conversation. So if you wanted all the details, you could make an appointment because there's a lot of details. But many community colleges, I want to say almost most community colleges do have ADN programs. And like I was saying before, you do the prerequisites, which could take 1.5 to 2 years, and then apply into the program. And then once you're admitted, it's a 2-year program. but they do make good money. And that's one of the reasons this one gets so much attention. All right, moving on to jobs that require a bachelor's degree. Now, there are definitely, entry-level jobs in healthcare with a bachelor's degree. And you can find these types of things at our local Cal State universities like Long Beach, Cal State LA, CSUN, Cal State Dominguez Hills, Channel Islands. These are the ones I'm going to talk about now. You're going to find at the Cal States, and they do have the option to work at the bachelor's level. You also have the option to go on and get a graduate degree. But these are varied. You get a bachelor's degree, it's kind of more general. You're not necessarily learning specific skills. So there's lots of different types of things that you might do, different types of jobs you might do with these types of degrees. So healthcare administration is one of them. If you want to get a bachelor's degree in healthcare administration, I think all the local Cal States that I just mentioned offer this degree. It's kind of like the business side of healthcare. There's planning and supervising of all medical services, including budgets and dealing with health records, information systems. So some of the classes in this major would include business and computer and accounting courses, as well as healthcare related courses. And there is the possibility, the option to go on and get a master's in healthcare administration. So you could get a bachelor's degree like this and then go into entry-level work. Same thing with public health. They call it this is called public health, and there's lots of jobs you could do. I listed some sample job titles, and we had a workshop on this last year. There's a really good video that we recorded. It was a good presentation to help you understand what public health is. If you missed it, you can still find it on our YouTube channel. You could just go on, go to YouTube and search SMC Career Center, and then go on videos to find this one on careers in public health. And then there are definitely Masters of Public Health programs, or you could use this as your bachelor's degree major and then go on to medical school. If you're not sure you want to do medical school, you could do public health as your bachelor's degree and still be able to get work. And then there's health promotion and education. So this is, you provide and manage health education programs. And this is something I looked up. You can also do these types of jobs with an associate degree sometimes. It really just depends on the employer and what the minimum requirements are. And then you see there is a pretty wide range of starting pay and median pay. And so I did find some salary information on this. This was the only one I could find listed as like health educator specifically on ONET, and be able to find some salary information. But I just also wanted to point out that there's the option to go to the master's level with this as well, maybe a master's of public health with an option in health education. All right, so other healthcare jobs. I want to make sure I'm still on schedule here. Yes, I am. Okay, so other healthcare jobs. I'm just lumped them all together because partially I was drained and trying to make this all fit, and we just really don't have time for it. And it gets complicated because you can do work in these fields at different levels. Like you can be a social worker with a bachelor's degree. You can probably be a social worker. I've met a social worker who is a social worker who doesn't have a degree at all. So it really widely varies. And then also just know that you could be a social worker in a hospital, specifically working in healthcare. You could be a patient advocate. You could be a behavior therapist or behavior technician. They even, you can get jobs in behavior therapy as a community college student, and they'll train you. But then you can go all the way up to the master's level if you want. And then medical labs. So I was going to try and include medical lab jobs in here, but I found that the job postings are so widely varied, really from no education all the way up to master's degree. I feel like these jobs are out there. And if you're interested in working in a lab, I think start by looking at Indeed.com, and you can make an appointment and we can talk about it. So now I want to share these resources with you. So I think this is really important to give some time to, so that you know how to do this research, and just know that this is exactly where I found all this information. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to share my, Google, and show you ONET, explorehealthcareers.org, the CCCCO, especially those three especially, and then also our Career Services Center website with a bunch of these resources linked. So I'm trying to exit full screen here. Okay, so so this is the first one I want to show you. I got a lot of my information from ONET. You can just type in onetonline.org and then go over here in this corner and like, for example, we could look up radiologic technicians. It's going to give you a little summary of what they do. It gives you like a list of tasks that they do, which I think is really helpful. That's a lot of information about exactly what they do. This is also one of the places where you can find who offers these training programs. You select the state, hit go, and it's going to show you the schools that offer these programs. And it's going to tell you how long they take as well. So this is a great resource. And then you just go to their website to learn more about their program. This is also where I got the like education level information. And wages and employment trends. So employment trends is like job outlook. Do they expect to have job openings in the future? So you can see how much growth they're expecting, how many job openings they're expecting in the future. You can search by state. And then the wages, you go to California, hit go. And so this is California. This is a chart of it, but also down here, I was taking it straight from Los Angeles. So this is, I would say, starting at and then median. And the word median means really just the middle. Okay, so that's where I got the salary info from. And then there's also related occupations. It's like, oh, you think you are interested in radiologic technology, you might also be interested in these jobs and might want to look into those. Then there's a lot of professional associations down here. If you get to the point where you're like, yes, I'm really interested in this, I want to learn everything I can. Professional associations are a great place to look. They can also tell you about accreditation. They can tell you about programs, education programs by state. Usually you can contact somebody to talk to. So definitely professional associations are important. And then there's this occupational outlook handbook. This is like a sister website to ONET. And what I like about it is it's got a lot of the same info, but it also has a video, which I think is really helpful. They're like 1.5 minutes long, not a big time commitment. And then they have a section on how to become one. They talk about how much education you need. They also talk about license and certification. So that's a really great component of the occupational outlook handbook, which I found at the bottom of the screen on ONET. I linked there. That's how I got to that page that had the video and how to become one. So that's ONET. And then the California Community College website, it's cccco.edu. So that's 4 C's and an O. If you go on Find a College and you search a program, so say like, let's say we do EMT, EMT1 and do search. Then it's going to give you a little push pin on the map for all of the community colleges in our area that offer that program. So that's how you can start looking specifically at the community colleges in the area that offer these programs. There's also a good website called explorehealthcareers.org. I like to go on Find Your Fit. You can search by how many years you want to spend in school. You can search by how much salary you want to make. So for this one, like I'm going to do, let's do diagnostic medical sonographer, so ultrasound tech. Lots of similar information at all these websites, but this one I like because it says, you know, it makes a recommendation of what type of accreditation to look for. And if these links worked, it would also show you, you know, like 2- and 4-year programs. I find that these links don't usually work. I use Google. I think maybe if you used another browser, maybe they would work, but I just like that it tells you about accreditation. That one I think is particularly helpful for that. And then just, you know, Indeed.com, like I was saying, like you can search on Indeed.com and look up, like I looked up patient care tech in Los Angeles. And this is where I found a lot of like real life information about like, what does it take to get a job in this field? So you look at the actual job posting, you see a description of the job. A lot of times they talk about, you know, Providence, like their mission and values and stuff like that. But then they'll show you the required qualifications. Like this one wants 1 year recent experience as a nurse assistant, like a CNA, in a comparable size facility. So that's really specific. Preferred qualifications is that they prefer that you have completed training as a CNA, and they want you to have some customer service training. So that's where, you know, I think it's really important to look at the job postings, because then you know what to aim for. All right, so that is our little demonstration of how to use those resources. I'm going to go back to my my PowerPoint just to show you the last few slides, and then we'll go to questions. All right, so all right, so after the resources, we go to this screen. Counseling 12. If you are thinking like, I have no idea what I want, this is too much information, I really just don't know what I want, Counseling 12 is a great option. It's a 1-unit class. It's 8 weeks long. It's offered in summer. It's offered year round. It's UC and CSU transferable, and it's a really great way for you to learn about yourself and explore careers to find what's going to be a good fit for you and to help you make a well-considered career decision. We help with decision making, or we talk about decision making and getting started with career planning and next steps. So that's all the types of things that are covered in Counseling 12. We do the learning about yourself part includes career assessments, like look at your personality, your values, your interests, your skills. So for those who are undecided, it can be really helpful to get you a little more clear on your goals. And even for those who have decided, it's a great class because you learn about yourself and it teaches you some skills in how to make decisions. You know, this information about yourself can help you with making decisions in your career down the road. And believe me, there's a lot more decisions to be made beyond choosing your major in your career. So I think it's helpful for everybody. All right, so, you know, I've thrown a lot of information about you. I've thrown a lot of information at you. And now if you want to, you can make an appointment with me or with Joan, or, you know, I work on Mondays and Tuesdays. I know my schedule doesn't work for everybody, but all career counselors can help you with finding, you know, how to use ONAD, how to find this information. So hopefully if you can make it with me, I'd love to have an appointment with you. If you have more questions, if you want help getting some clarity about what you want to do, you can call 310-434-4337, or we do on our website, our webpage, have like a book appointment way to do that online. And then also just stop by. We're on the Career Services Center is on the first floor of the Student Services Building, and you can come to the front desk to make an appointment. Now I'm going to hand it over to Joan. She can talk a little bit about what she does and how you can contact her.
Awesome. First, I just want to say thank you, Jenny, because that's a lot of information that you had to capture in this amount of time. And so Jenny and I work together under the health and wellness area of interest, right? And if you're falling in any area that a major career, you would go under that health and most likely the health and wellness area of interest. And so my job primarily is to utilize the information in terms of what major and career you might want to go to. So all those conversations that you have with Jenny or a career counselor, right? To help you find opportunities that match that career goal or that major goal. So for example, if you wanted to gain some experience to get into a nursing program, or to be an EMT, or to be like a medical office personnel, right? Then I will look at what you already have on your plate in terms of what your background is, what experiences that you've already achieved through your time at the college as well as before, to create your resume. And then I would point out other types of experiences that might help boost your chances of getting into an internship, a volunteer opportunity, a research program, right? And specifically look at those skills that are needed. I help with resumes. I help with cover letters. I work with resumes. I work with cover letters. I help students interview for whatever types of jobs that you might have, whether it's in the health industry or not. So maybe, again, if you're looking for a part-time job, just to kind of pay your way through college, I will help you through that process as well. Any student can make an appointment with me. The best probably way is to email me your availability through the SMC your SMC student email account. You could also call the Career Services Center. They just only have access to certain appointments in the morning. And if you email me, you might get access to my afternoon appointments directly. And so that's why probably the best way is to meet with me individually, and I could work you through creating a resume. You may not even have one. Great, we could work together. You may have one, and I might help edit it or give you some tidbits and tips or suggestions and things like that. So that's what I do.
All right, so thank you, Joan. So this is where we do Q&A. So I see a lot of comments in the chat. I haven't even looked at it. I'm going to let Joan take the lead there because she's been monitoring the chat. Should I go to
So I think I answered all the questions. I also put in links in the chat based on what Jenny was describing in her presentation, whether it was about certain programs that were offered here at the college, the non-credit programs too, or even our associate degrees.
Awesome.
I hope I caught all of them. So for those in the room, make sure that you look at the individual links in the chat. I hopefully labeled it so it's easy for you to find. And then I also listed our faculty lead, Yvonne Ortega, because I know that there are a lot of questions in there in regards to nutrition, and Yvonne is a registered dietitian and our faculty lead, and has offered appointments to kind of just discuss nutrition in general, if that is your focus, right? Because there was also some questions on that. And then I think there was a question about like deadlines for the RC program. I put in a phone number to contact the RC program because it's a cohort style. So there's a certain time you could be admitted, and then you stay with your cohort, you graduate with your cohort, and then they admit the next group. So you'll always have the same students in your class each time, kind of thing. And so I also saw that, and I'm gonna reiterate, Sarah, right, just posted or recently just posted the attendance form for PHPA members. So if you are a member of PHPA, please make sure that you sign in via their attendance form. But for everyone else, you will definitely get an attendance verification and the recording of the session. As Jonathan, if you are looking to make an appointment, I will drop the link again to schedule an appointment with anyone in Career Services. And if you specifically want to work with Jenny, or if you specifically want to work with me, you can make that request on the form. You could also call our office and schedule an appointment. That could be the easiest way, because as long as you call during normal business hours, right, 8 a.m., I think we close by like 4:35. Right, you will be able to then tell them live what your availability is, and someone could book you directly into one of our slots.
And then this email address on here is another way you can email to ask for an appointment, and you're gonna want to include your information there. It's not as efficient. It's more efficient to make a phone call, but you can also email requesting an appointment, but you'll want to, again, provide your availability, your student ID number, and things like that. Also, I just want to say there was a question and it was asking if you can email for help with resume. We don't do resume help over email. It's a very cumbersome way to do it. So you really do need an appointment for that.
But we do appointments in person and virtually at different times. So if you have a preference in terms of doing it in person versus virtual, please make a note in whether you're calling or whether you are filling out that form.
So that's a good point. We have in-person appointments, we have appointments on Zoom, and appointments over the phone. So hopefully one of those would work for you.
And I know Jenny said she's here Mondays and Tuesdays. For me, if you're needing any of that employment assistance, I actually, fortunate, I'm able to work Monday through Friday here at the college. So I have generally my first appointment starts at 8 a.m. My last appointment of the day starts at 3 o'clock, and my appointments are an hour long because the content we go over is very difficult to do in about a 30-minute time. Since I might be consistently seeing you, you could always schedule, or you'll schedule one appointment with me, but you could see me multiple times after that, right? So it's not something that I say, hey, just meet with me once and then you're done, right? You have the ability to then reschedule a follow-up appointment. And so I've seen students from many sessions, right? And so I encourage you to also see any of us in our office.
All
Any
right.
other-
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through the chat right now. It definitely looks like you guys were answering as we were going, so that's great. Yeah, I think that there were a lot of questions about nutrition, and that one is, you know, like a very specific path to becoming a registered dietitian. So you can also, if that's what you want to do, you can also talk to an academic counselor about what classes you would need to take. I will say about the CNA program. So the CNA program, what they require to get into that program are a background check and a drug screening. And then also, I think it was the basic life support certification. But there's no classes that you have to take before to get in. So it's just those three things. And if you're interested in applying to that program, you contact the Health Sciences Department, the CNA program. You send them an email, you say you're interested in applying, and they send you the link for how to start that process for getting the background check and the drug screening. And that is where some of the cost of the program is in getting those done. They do not charge for the classes, like I said, but some of the costs might be in those screenings, and then also like maybe in some supplies like books and things, but it is a very low cost program comparatively.
I'm going to change the subject only because there are questions about appointments. Our appointment scheduling system is different from academic counseling. Every department has their version of what qualifies for an appointment or how to sign up for an appointment. And so specifically want to address with career services. We do not offer drop-in services where it's a quick like conversation, like 10 to 15 or an express kind of appointment system. Our appointments do have to be scheduled, but that doesn't mean that if you happen to stop by our office and there is an appointment time available at that time you come, that we can't plug you into that time. It's just not considered express or drop-in. And so if you're looking at that, and you could plan, and I suggest that you plan ahead. We don't do it by the weekly basis. So I have students who have scheduled their time towards the end of May versus now, right? So you just want to just make sure that you have your calendar ready when you're booking your appointment to see what your availability is to schedule a time with, like I said, any one of us at the Career Services Center. You also have to be registered, at least right now policy-wise, for at least 3 units or our Counseling 12 class.
All right. I also want to just answer the question in the chat about, are the CNA classes required to be taken on campus only? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm guessing yes, that they are in-person classes, because I also know that they do get you some clinical experience, meaning they get you in a hospital setting or in a, some kind of a facility setting. That is definitely in person. So whether or not all the classes are in person, I'm not sure, but I would imagine you do need to be available for in person. All right, we have 5 minutes. Any other questions? For the nursing program, do you have to have at least 1 C to apply? Can you reword that? I think, the better for SMC's program, it is a point system, and the higher your GPA, the better. So if you're talking about a C grade, no, if you could get all A's, that would be fantastic. But you probably can't get lower than a C in the classes. Does that answer your question?
I think it may or may not, but I would also just suggest, depending on the nursing program that you're applying to, they have different requirements. So if you're looking at the SMC nursing program, you definitely want to reach out to the Health Sciences Counseling Department or Health Sciences Counseling area, and they could walk you through the requirements for the SMC nursing program and what classes and what would make you a competitive applicant. There are mandatory classes that you have to take, and there is a certain grade that you have to have, and just to initially meet the qualifications. And then other nursing programs might have their own specifics. So if you have to at least 1C in the prerequisites. So I'm not sure if that's the lowest grade that you could have, or should you shoot for a higher grade, right? And so that is a question that you should definitely reach out to our academic counselors in the health sciences area, specifically for the SMC nursing program. If you're looking at transferring to a school with a nursing program, you could definitely look into our general counseling and transfer area, and they could help you with that.
Yeah, I would say the answer is no, you do not have to have at least 1C, and other programs like nursing programs have different policies. So you have to be familiar with the policies at each of the schools you apply to. I work at another school where they take a GPA calculation of anatomy, physiology, and micro, and you can't have less than a C. So those do vary by school. So yeah, the CNA program, I'm sure, is going to be limited to a certain number of spots, but it really hasn't caught on yet. It's not in huge demand at this point. They have, it sounds like they're trying to fill their spots. So because it's a new program, word hasn't really gotten out yet. And then another thing about the prerequisites for nursing, it's the W's and the non-passing grades that you really want to worry about. The CNA program, I think they said it's like 4 weeks and then 2 weeks for the home health aide. So I think around 6 weeks altogether in the summer. And it is a pretty substantial time commitment during those weeks. And yeah, Joan is giving you the information. It's like 150 hours or something. It lists how many hours it is. And that includes the classes, the time in class, and the time in the clinical setting. All right, well, we just have a couple minutes. We've pretty much done with our time, and it looks like the questions are dwindling. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just say thank you all for coming. Thank you for your participation. I hope you found it helpful. And if you, like we said, made it pretty clear, you can always come and ask more questions, and we can help you with planning and, you know, figuring out what steps to take to get there. You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Sarah, did you have any other announcements before everyone leaves? I think everyone is leaving, but
Anything else you'd like to say?
I know Joan already mentioned it, but just a reminder, the attendance form is in the chat if you are a PHPA member that would like credit for this meeting. Thank you so much for attending.